Welcome. This is my out of theater reaction of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with guest reviewer Jaheim. And I'm actually going to let him start this time.
It was pretty good. I thought it was gonna be trash, but the movie was good after overall. There's no one beside us, so it was just chill. It was just our, reaction.
All right, well, I also like this movie actually. I was pretty surprised. I saw that it got bad reviews and I was not expecting it to be good, but I watched it and I was pretty entertained. I surprisingly definitely thought it was miles better than Crystal Skull. Nowhere near as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Last Crusade. Those are both pretty dang perfect movies, especially Raiders, pretty much perfect. I would put, Last Crusade as a close second. Crystal Skull is at the very bottom, and this one is about tied for me with Temple of Doom, which I'm not the biggest Temple of Doom fan. It has some flaws, though, guys. It has some flaws. And we'll talk about that. One thing is the opening scene. There's a lot of this digital de-aging of Harrison Ford. There is, I don't know if it's a deep fake of Ford. I think it might be because they did that with The Mandalorian, and it's Lucasfilm. So I think it's a deep fake. The opening 20 minutes, there was some great moments. There were some very goofy moments, and the thing overall is, it was like a rough ride. There were parts where it was really good, the de-aging, and then there's parts like from one shot to the next, it'll be, oh, that looks good. Then it's like, oh, that looks terrible. Then it's like, oh, that looks good, and it's kind of hilariously entertaining in that way, there's some parts where I legit was like, that looks amazing, and then the very next shot it'll be like, oh, that looks like a wax statue that's melting. And not only Harrison Ford, but Mads Mikkelsen, they sometimes look like way too smooth than they're supposed to. The action during that opening 20 minutes set in the 40s is like, it's okay, but the thing is, there's parts that are really, really goofy and take you out of it. Like, him and me both laughed at this part where Harrison Ford, the young CGI Harrison Ford, is running on top of a train, and it looks so unrealistic because he is running so fast on this train. It's like a cartoon character, because if Hayao Miyazaki directed a scene like this, every frame you would feel the wind resistant of the character. They would be crawling, clinging to the top of this. But that's not how he was. He was like, and like, when you're on a train, the best, at most you can stand still and crouch, and that's it. But Harrison Ford was freaking bounding against the wind, and there was a lot of moments like that where I just laughed out loud at how stupid it was. But overall, though, the action was actually pretty good. Once it gets to the present day, the middle part was my favorite part. There was the ticker tape parade of the moon landing action scene, the horse in the subway, the three-wheeled race, the scuba diving part. I actually loved all of that. I thought those were all good.
So what I liked about the train part, I want to get back to that. Why it was so weird is because like you said, it looked like a cartoon character almost, but he like jumped over like the gap, like the gap between, and it looked so weird. It felt like the tracking of him wasn't like it was off, and like it was just so funny. And yeah, and also I was like, this dude should be flying off. This train's going like 120, and like he isn't like the wind resistance is like he isn't like Goku and everything. He isn't like an anime character. Like he can't resist that wind. So it's just like, dude, what? This doesn't make any sense. And then the Nazi, he like grabs his shirt and like pulls it because they were in like under like a bridge area, right? And and he just grabbed him and like pulled him against like the bridge, and he was like, you know, like just imagine this: someone slamming this dude against a wall and just rubbing it. That's what it was like, and it was just like, how is he still alive? It's a train going over 100. Like, it was just weird, but I'm gonna pass it on to.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that part. One of the Nazis slams Harrison Ford against the ceiling of a tunnel while the train is going through the tunnel. And it's just like this CGI debris falling, and young Harrison Ford just duh, 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 duh. And like, yeah, in real life he would be dead instantly. So there's just a lot of stuff like that where it's way cartoony like that, but it's nowhere near as bad as the CGI gophers from Crystal Skull, the CGI refrigerator, and the nuke bomb scene in Crystal Skull.
So there was this one part too. Oh, there's this one part too where like this like nuclear bomb, atom bomb dropped into a house, and I'm like, shouldn't have exploded on impact? And I'm like wondering like, that doesn't make sense. So then it just like slowly sinks down to the bottom, and then it explodes. And he's like, you know, like those back when people are like those little rope hangy thingies where it's like some sort of kill method, I don't know. But he was on one of those, right? I bet he's been on that for like 10 minutes, and nuke bomb drops and explodes from underneath the like 4-story house.
He was on a
and then he was just like dangling, and I'm like, and how did he survive? How is his clothes still on? It's like, how did the other people die that was right next to him, but he didn't? I'm like, this dude isn't like, I mean, it's a part of the movie. It's a movie, you know, like he's the main dude, but it's not like the main dude has 9 lives. So it's just like, what?
Yeah, I think it was actually just a normal bomb, but I will admit it did look like a nuke style looking bomb. Like it looked like fat man or little boy or whatever. Like it looked like that, but then when it exploded, it was just a grenade. So I guess it was not a nuke. But anyway, about that opening 20 minutes, there's a part where the thing that didn't hold up the most, it wasn't the visuals. The visuals were mostly good. You got those spikes every now and again where he looked like a wax museum, but it was actually pretty good most of the time. However, it's Harrison's voice that didn't hold up. He sounded like an 80-year-old man, but he looked like a 38-year-old man talking. That's the main thing that didn't hold up. Then there's another flashback later in the movie where it's in like the 50s, and he's only a little bit younger than he is now, but he still has gray hair, and I thought that looked great. And in fact, I wish that they just used that model but just dyed the hair brown or something, because it was like way more convincing for whatever reason. But anyways, other than that, yeah, this movie had a lot of flaws. A lot of the every character in the movie besides Indiana Jones was like very generic, very, very generic. In fact, the way I would describe this movie is that if this movie were the collective cutscenes of a video game, it would be a monumentally good video game. I mean, the cutscenes in this movie equates to, you know, the first 3 Uncharted video games. It's about as good as just sitting and watching the cutscenes of any of the first 3 Uncharted games. But compared to an Indiana Jones movie of the original trilogy, it's not as good as those. Like, you know what I mean? It's better than the Tom Holland Uncharted movie. You know? You get what I'm trying to say? It's like, if this movie was a video game, it would be like a masterpiece, but because it's a movie, it's only okay. But however, I was entertained actually. And side characters, the villains, generic. Mads Mikkelsen, generic Nazi villain. Nothing that interesting about him. Just a retread of Tote from the first movie. He looks exactly like Tote. There's nothing interesting about him at all. Like, all the bad guys are generic. All the side characters are generic. It reminded me of Black Adam. There's this little kid character who was a lot like the little kid character in Black Adam on the skateboard, who's like, Black Adam's sidekick. There's this character that they introduced, Teddy.
Oh.
And he's like this 12-year-old kid. And let me tell you, I mean, he is worse than Mutt Williams from Crystal Skull. He is like, they should have cut this character out of the movie entirely. They should have cut the Antonio Banderas character out of the movie entirely. There's a lot of characters like that just show up, and like this child character has no other purpose other than giving like exposition questions to Indy. Is that the tomb, Indy? Oh, and that's where Archimedes is? That driving all the vehicles, cars, boats, planes, and also getting kidnapped. But there's no reason why Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge couldn't have had all of those characteristics. Like, this character didn't need to exist. And there's also this hilariously stupid part in the movie where one of the bad guys handcuffs this kid to his wrist and immediately places the key of the handcuff in his own pocket, inches away from the boy's free hand. And immediately when that happened, I was like, oh, well, he's easily going to grasp the key out of that pocket and get away. And that's exactly what happens in the next scene. And it's like, why is this scene even in here? Why is that character even in there?
So, speaking of that kid got on my nerves, dude. He was just in, like, every driving scene, like, go home, play some Fortnite or something, or Minecraft, any game. It doesn't even have to be Fortnite, just any game. Like, why is he out here driving a whole plane at, like, 20,000 altitude, driving into this, I don't know, hole in the sky? Eye of the storm?
Yep.
Yeah, basically, like...
Basically a wormhole.
Yeah, like, go home. Why are you here? It's just one of those one characters that just don't have to be in the... Like, replace it with some, like, I don't know, like, some other dude that, has a more backstory. Like, that kid just appeared. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, he's just annoying. Okay, you can talk now.
All right. Another side character, there's like a CIA agent who's teaming up with the Nazi bad guy, and she doesn't know that he's a Nazi. That whole character and that whole subplot, again, could have been cut out entirely, and nothing would have been lost. It could have just been this Nazi guy and his henchmen looking for this thing. Nothing would have been, lost
Wasn't it like
because
that?
of that. No, there was a CIA partner, the black lady, and she was like going along with him and didn't know he was a Nazi.
Oh, he was.
And it's just like, I don't even know why that character was there. It was
just annoying. Just that little kid just didn't have to be there. I mean,
Yeah.
At least that,
The CIA agent, debatable, but the kid definitely needs to go.
And the reason for that is that at least the CIA agent had some reasoning to be there,
Yeah.
Some reasoning, some backstory at least. Like, that kid was just like, little kid driving a airplane, asking stupid questions, like, in a squeaky little voice. And then one moment that got me off is that right after he took the key out of the big dude's pocket and unlocked it, they were like in some like random like river. So like just 1 minute later, the kid's hair after like being in that little like kind of stream was immediately dry. And I'm like, dude, this dude has like a, I don't know, like a one of those, what is it called, like
Hair dryers?
Yeah, hair dryers. I'm like, what? Like, this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I like the overall plot, though, and I thought, like, the MacGuffin, the object that they were after, was different and interesting. And I thought it did a lot of surprisingly a lot of stuff that's different for the franchise. Like there's lots of action scenes in like New York, Manhattan, with Indiana Jones doing his adventuring. You don't see that every day in the franchise. They did something really out of left field in the climax. You don't see that every day in the franchise. We're in spoiler territory, so I'll just they go to ancient Greece, and it's one of those things where I was like, as I was watching it, I was like, I don't know if I love this or hate it, but I'm really entertained by it because it's so over the top goofy. Like, it reminds me of what I've heard about the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I haven't seen that show, but as I understand it, he just goes and meets figures in history, and that's every episode. It was like that. At like the end is like he meets Archimedes, and it was so cheesy. I felt like I was playing a CD-ROM game or something, but I kind of loved it. Harrison Ford's performance in it is great. It's actually one of the best parts of the movie, like the character stuff, where it's no CGI. It's just a sad old man on his armchair, like being sad and whatever. Like it was actually some of the best stuff in the movie. His performance was way better than it was in Crystal Skull, where it felt like he was sleepwalking through the whole thing. And not only that, I like how there's the drama with his ex-wife, and Mutt Williams gets killed in the Vietnam War in the story as well. And I like that because that leaves room for my own fan fiction Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Tablet of Dawn. That's a fan fiction one that I made up with, where he reunites with Short Round. And that would be a good setup for that, because now that he has a dead son, that leaves room for like seeking out a surrogate son, and I could see that having even more legs now.
If it was a game, I would for surely play it, but I would get tired of it in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is like the world's best Indiana Jones fan fiction, but it happens to star Harrison Ford. Like, that's the way I would describe it. I would say, like, if you really are not that highbrow about your movie experience, you just want an excuse to munch popcorn, it's not a bad way to kill a couple hours, but maybe see it like Jeremy Johns says in his rating system. Maybe you should see it with a matinee price. Do we want to give it stars? Like, I guess I would give it 3 stars out of 5. What about you, Jaheim?
4.5. I'm going to be generous, and 4.5.
4.5 stars out of 5 for Jaheim.
The rest of the 5, the 0.5, that's because of some CGI effects that was trash.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's okay. It's not, it's not capital C cinema, but you could be entertained by it. It's not bad.
It's entertainable and it's enjoyable. So, yeah.
All right. And with that, that's our review. Bye-bye.